Welcome back, wannabes and creators, to another episode of The Complete Creative, the podcast that helps you create a better and more sustainable creative business. Today, we have my friend Fabrice Sapolsky on the show. I met Fabrice at a small convention in California a couple of years ago, and I just really grok what he does. He's the senior editor over at Humanoids, one of my favorite publishing companies for comics, and honestly, where I took the business model for everything that Wannabe Press does with the big, beautiful books. He also created my favorite version of Spider-Man, Spider-Man Noir, which you might have seen in the Into the Spider-Verse movie, or if you're like me, read the comics when they first came out. Fabrice has been doing this a long time, and I can't wait for you to hear what he has to say. Before we do, I want to remind you that I have a whole website that I built out full of creative tips, tricks, and hacks for how to build your creative business. You can head on over to thecompletecreative.com and check that out today and look up our epic blog posts, our free courses, our paid courses, and a whole lot more. All right, that being said, let's get on with the show. Take it away, Fabrice. Tell us what you're passionate about these days.
Oh my God. I'm always passionate about everything. That's who I am. Like, I'm a passionate being. I guess this is 2020, and I have been working secretly in my cave for the past few months in 2019. And there are like a bunch of projects that I'm going to unleash on the world in the next 2 years. And this, I'm extremely passionate about all this because it involves, I wouldn't say the rebirth of me as a creator, but I've just spent 2 years focusing on my career as an editor at Humanoids. And that's fine. And I'm still an editor at Humanoids, and that's fine. But the creator in me was dying to talk, to speak, to write, to draw, to do all the things that a creator does. And I guess that I'm very excited because in 2020, I learned a lot this past 2, 3, 4 years. And I'm finally ready to deliver products that are up to my standards, and which high, and shared them with the world, and that's really exciting. Really,
it's super exciting. I can't wait to see what you have coming out. I would say that your standards are exacting. Whenever I talk to you, I show you new work that we're working on or new things, and I just look at that face that doesn't miss, because Humanoids has quite a standard and Fabrice has quite a standard, and then
yes,
my standard
they're sometimes not the same, by the way.
No, sometimes, but it's more like the art style is not the Fabrice art style that I use.
Yeah.
I do want to ask you. You said about you've learned a lot. I'd love you to expound a little bit on some of the things that you've learned in the past couple of years.
All right. So, the first thing I want to talk about is Kickstarter, because as some people know, last year in 2019, I launched a Kickstarter and I failed. And it was the first for me because my previous Kickstarter from my other book, Intertwined, has been a huge success. And so I was like, okay, well, some time has passed between the two, but I was kind of sure that with a series that I was bringing back that already had an audience because it had been published at Image Comics in 2014, 2015, but never compiled into a graphic novel, I would have a chance and it would be easy. It was A, not easy, and 2, it was a failure. But it was not a failure just because we didn't reach the goal. It was also a failure because I was preaching in the desert, and I had the impression that nobody cared. And it was like, okay, then you have to work on yourself, and you have to understand why what was working a couple of years ago is not working anymore. Why something that had to be the easiest projects of all, the easiest Kickstarter to fund was not. And initially I was about to restart the Kickstarter immediately after I failed. And then my friend Tom Lyle died. And I didn't see myself. I had to grieve because he was like, we were very close, and also I needed to understand. So I processed a lot of information, and it took me 3 months to figure out what I wanted to do and how I wanted to approach my communication to the outside world. And the new Kickstarter that is now live and going on for One Hit Wonder that I call like Take Two is exactly the result of that. It's a Fabrice-centric initiative because it's just me showing the world who I am. And I would say that for the first time, I'm taking that step, which is stepping out of the shadows. Like usually a writer, especially a comic book writer, has no face. You don't know who we are. We don't express ourselves through art because there's no art. But then in the meantime, in these 5 past years, I turned into a writer illustrator. I am now able to do both. And my growth as an artist is like now visible. I'm stepping out of the shadows. I've recently started publishing my first ever sketchbook, which is also something huge for me because for a long time, I was not satisfied with my art. I was like the first one to say, oh, this is not good enough. This is not great. I can't publish that piece at all. And for the first time, I was like looking at it and I was like, okay, this is finally going somewhere. And so I'm extremely excited because like you have like all these projects that are coming together. The Kickstarter that started on January 17th and will go on for exactly 17 days up until February 2nd, Groundhog Day, and also my brother's birthday. That's why I chose it. So it will be a quick campaign, very short. But at the same time, I need that. I need those projects to show who I am. And the months to come are going to be more about me showing which kind of creator or editor I am, a person I am, and like stepping out of the shadows than anything else.
You know, it's so interesting because I hear that from a lot of I don't want to say old time writers and creators, but like people that came up in the old guard before like social media really took off. I talk to them and they're like, the work speaks for itself, and they often have trouble on Kickstarter for that exact reason because they're like, no, the work speaks for itself, and I'm like, that is not the world we live in today.
No, exactly. And it's a word like where you have to have a face. And I understood that also. Like I've been very private for a long time, very, very private, but it's also an evolution of my persona, an evolution of my personality. Is that when I was 20 years old, I was shy as hell. And I couldn't like speak to anyone, and I was hiding behind my work. And then after I became a journalist, and I was hiding behind the magazine. And then I became a creator, and I was hiding behind the books. Now, there's nothing to hide anymore. There's nothing to be ashamed of. There's nothing to like the excess of humility it becomes a problem. Like it's great to be humble, and I pride myself in being humble in many ways. But at the same time, the excess of humility becomes a problem because there's so much white noise outside. There are so many creators. There are so many people who are creating stuff that if you don't bring your own voice to the front, nobody will ever know what you are or who you are. And it's more about that. And I took a lot of inspiration from the music scene. Like I'm a huge music buff, and I've seen how artists have taken control of their careers in the recent years, using social media, using regular media, using every possible outlet that they had at their disposal to create something, to show who they were. And I think at one point it's also more mature. Like I've grown as a person, I've grown as an artist, I've grown as a writer, and it's showing my colors because like if you can't accept who I am right now, well, that's okay, but this is who I am. I'm not going to change who I am.
Yeah, you mentioned the music thing, and I think it's so important because that's what I did when I first started. And the truth is that music is just it's not a more mature medium, but it's a more mature medium in the age of the internet.
Yes.
You know, it came 6-7 years before there was Kindle. There was iPad and iPod and Apple Music, and it allowed people to, a lot of the things that we're just learning now in publishing or in other industries, they're learning. They learned years before us,
and the hard way.
Yes,
the hard way.
Well, I also think that it's more appropriate to look at music than to look at movies, because movies, there's often dozens, if not hundreds of people on a set to like help push a project forward. And with a music, it's often one or maybe 3 or 4 people, which is what you would get on a book or a comic.
Absolutely. Yes. And I see a lot of parallels in terms of promotion, customer relationship management, in terms of touring, because like when you go to concerts, it's like going to a Comic-Con. Like this is a festival. This is something that really, like, where people are drawn to have an experience together, to have something that is social. And so the interaction between musical acts and their fans is kind of similar in vibe with the one that we have with our respective fans. So yes, absolutely. It in more ways than you think, because I'm also trying a new approach. I'm giving out my phone number to people now. I'm giving out my phone number like it's like huge. It will be huge at my display at shows. It's huge on my business card, and like I'm giving that because I want people to really interact with me. And this is a real number. This is not a fake number. This is a real number. This is like a number that people can text me and get information on the books, information on who I am. They can reach out, and this is a very modern way of communicating, and it's not something that is really common at this point in the comic book industry or in the publishing industry, but it is in the musical industry, like where you are talking to one fan at a time. And I think that this is a very modern way of seeing things. And again, this is part of the thing that I was ready to embrace in 2020, and I am embracing that. So yeah. Absolutely. Like this is, to me, is like year one. It's like Fabrice 2.0 or 3.0. It depends. I may be seasoned, but it's like I'm starting again. But with all that experience of 25 years in the industry, you know, and that gets me excited. And I think that excitement, enthusiasm, passion is contagious.
Yeah, what I see for people who've been able to survive for decades doing this is that ability to reinvent themselves, reinvigorate themselves. And when maybe I'm not saying that you were burnt out doing the things that you were doing, but like often I talk to people who have like hit a roadblock, or they just don't have that passion for the thing that they're doing, and their ability to really sort of ignite themselves and rise from the ashes like a phoenix again and again and again is what allows them to have the longevity in their career.
Yes, I mean, my absolute guru in everything is Prince. I'm a huge Prince fan, like huge to the point where I have everything about everything. I mean, there are like even more hardcore fans than I am, and I know a few of them. But like in the hardcore world of Prince fans, I'm like I'm in the top 100, not in the big league of hardcore fans, but like in the smaller league of the hardcore fan. But I'm still a hardcore fan, and I'm also learning, and I'm learning every day, because there are now, especially after he passed, there are a lot of people talking. There are a lot of people talking about his philosophy, and I'm rereading his lyrics with a totally different perspective. But the same way, I was very much into Bruce Lee, and Bruce Lee was a genius, and he only lived for 33 years. But what he gave us in those 33 years is phenomenal. And so when I was developing Intertwine 5 years ago, I was totally into the Bruce Lee philosophy and all, and it was extremely motivating to listen to what he was teaching, to hear his interviews, to hear her daughter talking. She has a podcast every week, and like trying to understand how these people who have been confronted to glass ceilings, to a lot of discriminations, have overcome that and became who they became, legendary. And I'm not saying like by any means that I am legendary or I will be legendary, but I'm saying that my aspiration is to, just like a lot of us, leave a trail, leave something, be an example, and inspire other people. Because I'm myself inspired every day by tons of amazing creators who are like kicking my ass. And instead of like, well, they're better and I can't do anything about that, I'm extremely competitive. And it's very new for me because like 30 years ago, I was not that competitive. I was not like the one. I was like, okay, I'm happy to partake, but if I don't win, that's all right. And now it's different. Now I'm in to win.
Yeah, I actually, it's funny. I've gotten, I think, less competitive as I've aged and as like I've gotten to another level. Maybe I need to bring more of that like competitive fire into what I do.
That's funny because like I'm exactly the opposite. Like and it's funny because like my mother was always into astrology, and she always taught me that the older you grow, the more your other sign takes over. And my primary sign is Leo. I'm a Leo. So I have all the attributes of the male Leo, like very charismatic, loyal, whatever. You name it, I have it. Like I looked at it and was like, okay, I'm typical Leo male. And then my other sign is Scorpio. And as I grow older, I can see the fire coming. And it's cool. It's cool. I'm cool with that.
Yeah, that's good. I want to talk about the music thing again, because for me, the thing that changed really from 2000 and I've been doing this 2010, really full time since 2015 to 2020 is you used to be able to put something good up. And like, it was so much better. It was the odds were that if you could put up something that was Vertigo quality or better, or at least professional quality, like it would rise, it would stand heads and shoulders above the general thing. And there was that you could stand out, but now everything is just so good that it takes a more emotional connection with the people you're trying to sell to get that same leverage forward.
Well, there's also something like that has dramatically changed, and I'm talking about the comic book industry. And what has dramatically changed is the environment out there. We used to be in a very artisanal type of industry. Like we were a pocket in the publishing industry. Now we are totally are 2 feet in the 2 feet in the publishing industry. We are totally into it. Like the fact that the big publishing companies now have a graphic novel line or graphic novel arm is a testimony. It's like it's totally that. Like all the 5 biggest publishers in America have a graphic novel department. That has changed from what it was 10 years ago. The other thing that has changed, and I think it was kind of the domino effect, is when the movie studios starting considering comic books as R&D. And of course, the most visible part of it is when Disney acquired Marvel in 2008. So again, we're like almost 12 years into that, and we're still seeing the seismic consequences of this. And to me, the worst has been the rise of brand culture. And I'm this is a topic that I'm now openly talking about, and that you'll see me or hear me talk a lot more about. And it's not that I want to like bash any big publishers or anything. I'm just stating the facts, which are I've worked for Marvel as a freelancer, and right now Marvel is not interested in bringing creators to front. They're more interested in perpetuating their brands. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just a fact. And if I look at it from a freelancer / creator perspective, this is not good, because right now, for us to make our own brands more visible, more relevant, and more successful in today's publishing or multimedia world, is to speak louder. But we don't have the marketing machine. We don't have the marketing power. We don't have the money to do that. But the only thing that we have is ourselves. So, and this is the major shift that I had to make in my in the way I delivered my product and myself to the world, was, okay, this is no more about what you do. This is about you. And it kind of comes from years of touring at American conventions, and I've done over 60 conventions in the past 4 years here in the US. And what I learned is that you have a very limited, and you know that, Russell, you've been doing that, and like in way better than me in a lot of cases, which is when you have to pitch your book, you have 20 seconds, but basically this is you're flirting with a customer, and you have 20 seconds to sell yourself. So if they like you, if people like what they see, like what they hear, and they understand that there's fire in that creator, they will buy it, because on the spot, they can't know if it's good or not. They have to trust you. And basically, I think our most valuable weapon as independent creators is ourselves. So that's why personalities have to rise. That's why we have to step to the front and say, okay, this is us. This is who we are. Because what you're buying is also my personality. It's my brain juice or what comes out of my arm when I draw is me. And that's what you have to like. If you don't like it, that's fine. But if you do, like, please come and please enjoy and please help me.
Yeah, this is so it's so funny, because when I first started Wannabe Press, I had made it so that Wannabe Press was going to be the brand. Like, it was going to publish other people's stuff, and it was going to like do the thing that Random House and Humanoids and every company does. And it came to the point where at some point, I don't remember when it was, but I asked people, maybe in the end of 2017, it's like, well, what do you like about Wannabe Press? And everybody to a T was like, you. It's like, I literally don't care what Wannabe Press puts out. I care what you do. Exactly.
Wannabe Press, just like for me, is Fair Square Comics. Like, our brands are just brands. They're just shells. But inside the shell, there are these beautiful butterflies, and this is who we are. And this is what we want the public to know that there's a heart, there's a mind, there are hands, there's a smile, and there's creativity. And that's what we offer. And it's something that, let's be competitive again for a second. This is something that brands cannot offer, because brands will offer an experience. Like, you go to Disneyland, that's okay. You don't know who created those attractions. You don't know who created those rides. You don't know who created anything. You're just enjoying something for a second. But if you are going to enjoy and follow something else, then you have to engage. And the engagement comes through a human connection. And if you don't have the human connection, that's fine, but it's just for a moment. We're building long-lasting relationships with our fan base. It's like dating. We're building something. And this is how we keep being relevant, because we have an audience to talk to, because we show who we are, and people are not like disappointed, or maybe they are, but like they're not surprised. Like, they have individuals, they have creators they know they can trust, and just in the same way the music industry has this fan factor. We're creating our own fan base, and this is the only way we will survive the brand culture. Because if not, if we keep like only doing work for the big corporations, and again, I'm not shitting on everybody here. I'm very proud of the work I did for Marvel Comics. They call me every 4 years. to ask me for something, I will always answer the phone. But I can't keep being like waiting by the phone. It's not possible. And no creator is doing that. Like, I need to come up with more. I have more to offer, more to deliver to the world, and so do you. And so we can't just wait for validation from the big corporation, from the brand culture. We have to exist by ourselves. We have to prove ourselves, and we have to be active in our own and be in charge of our own careers. And that's what I'm doing.
Absolutely. There was something that I don't remember who I was listening to, but somebody said this, and it just like stuck with me, and that I've never forgotten it. And it was, in order to scale, you have to do the unscalable, and which to me is like, I have to answer every email and talk to every person, and I can be out there when Stephen King can't be out there. Like, one of the problems last year, I went through this. You probably saw, like, when I was like releasing these novels, and they were just going like blowing up in my face and blowing up in my face. And I was like, well, why? Like, I don't understand. Like, the fan base is there, the books are good, and it's because when I was launching them, like, I was launching them and competing with Stephen King. Like, anybody can go to Amazon and get like Harry Potter or Stephen King or John Grisham book. The thing that like was the differentiating factor for me was me. It was the me. It was the like, when I do run a Kickstarter, like, I am talking to every single human being. I am doing videos. When I'm at a convention, like, Stephen King's not sitting behind that table for 8 hours, 20 times a year, like, meeting people. Like, it is the only thing that like I can beat Stephen King.
Yeah, and again, we remain accessible. I think that this is the point, the focal point of a modern communication between a creator and again, I'm getting back to building relationships. We're accessible. People can reach out to us. We respond to everybody who will like engage on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, you name it, we got it. Because we want to keep that link alive. And that what differentiates us from every other studio. We are not a studio. We are not a brand that is like faceless. We are our own brands, and we are human, just like our fans. We're just like them. We just deliver and they enjoy.
And when you have that connection with fans, they are much more likely to follow you to other things.
Absolutely.
You know, we moved a couple of years ago. I moved to doing pins, and now our pin stuff is pretty successful. And we're moving into patches this year. And like, when I curate anthologies, they know that I am curating an anthology that they are going to enjoy, even though I am only responsible for 4 pages of the anthology or 6 pages of like actual scripting.
Because
I am
it
the
doesn't
person
matter.
that's putting it, but I'm the person putting it together. So they have that trust that ends up being like quite deep. And even when I go on, like, I have my Facebook page, like, people at least once a week, or at least a couple of times a month, will like message me and be like, I'm really enjoying like the memes or whatever you're curating on this page. Like, I just bought your book because I think that we think the same way.
Yes. And I have to say, Russell, I really like when you're breaking down the numbers, and you're very open about the financial situation that you're in. And it's something that I rarely saw before. I mean, Jim Zub was doing it. He has been doing it for like 10 years or something. But I really like that you're very open about that, because like, a lot of people don't know how much a comic book or a novel costs to produce, how much it costs to print, how much it costs to distribute. Everything is very vague. And like, I always say to people, look, if you go to a comic book store and you see my comic next to a Marvel and DC comic, you don't see the difference. There are 2 books that are printed the same size, same way, with a similar kind of trade dress and design, because it's the standards of our industry. And what makes you pick it is knowledge of the creator or knowledge of the brand, or both. And but if you look at it from another perspective, we're not boxing in the same category. We are small, and we're just like putting ourselves in front of you guys and say, hey, we can do it too. It's not just like a big company thing. We can do it too, and we can do it as well as they do. We just have a different way of doing it, but it costs that much. And like the other side of that is like how much a script cost, how much an idea cost, how much a piece of art cost. It's totally impossible to put a price tag on everything because it's creative. And like an idea that you will put 7 years into development and an idea that you will have in 5 minutes may have a very different path, a different destiny. And the one that you nurtured for 7 years might fail. And the one that it's like a hit. How many? We're getting back to the music industry for a second. Like I'm always amazed. Like when I hear music creators and musicians say, "Hey, I mean, we did this thing in 5 minutes in a studio because we still had like 5 minutes in our session, and it became a huge hit." How did it come? You don't know. It's a mystery, and creation remains a mystery for a lot of people. That's why we have to explain them some more rational things, like how much cost a thing, how long does it take to draw a piece. Usually, like when I'm at shows and people are like, "Oh, we love your work, we love your art, but like it's a little bit expensive," and I'm like, "All right, I mean, it's okay if you can't afford it right now, but don't expect me to sell you a piece that I spent 10 hours drawing for $5 because it's not going to happen. This is an original art, and I spent 15 hours. So when I'm asking for $150, that makes $10 an hour. This is less profitable than spending an hour flipping burgers at McDonald's." And like people are looking at me like, "Oh, we never saw this with that perspective." And people understand that good art takes time. Good writing takes time. Publishing takes skills, takes time. This is something that we're building. And of course, we're doing that to ourselves. Of course, nobody has a gun on our head and like say, "Hey, you should write, you should draw, you should publish this." This is what we're doing. This is our purpose. But at the same time, when we find an audience that enjoys it, we want to keep doing it because we love it.
That's what I was talking with a friend of mine about this the other day. About he was talking about how somebody came to his table and was like, "Well, why would I buy this when I could get it for free?" And I was like, "Well, like here's what I say to that. I say to that, like, do you want me to keep making it? Like, do you want me to like make more than what you have already read?" And like usually the answer is yes, I would like that. I was like, "Well, like I if you wanted me to keep making this at the speed that I am making it, then like I need to be able to pay my mortgage.
Yeah.
If I can't pay my mortgage, then I have to get a job, which will cut my ability to make this. But more importantly, if I don't have a fan base to enjoy this, like I'm not one of those people who intrinsically writes because like I love writing. I write so that other people can read it, and if there's not the connection between reader and human, like I've stopped working on so many great projects because it just didn't resonate with people. And so that's what I tell us. Like I don't want to be a capitalist, but I am at some level like this. We're in a capitalist society. Like I have to make money to continue to make this project. And even if I go to a job, there's no guarantee I will keep making this project because like part of the intrinsically like having the audience is having an audience who loves it enough to buy it from me. Not even because of the money exchange, because they actually, that is the only way that I know that the thing that I have has literal value.
Yeah. And I think the difference between you and I is that you're spending like 90% or 100% of your time working on your own creations. And I have a couple of other activities, like whether it's like my day job at Humanoids as an editor or what I'm doing on the side as a designer, because this is where I'm come from. I come from art, graphic design, and also liberal arts. So whether I write or I design or I draw for people outside of my day job, like Mike, it's funny because it always brings me back to comics. What's the secret identity of Fabrice Sapolsky? And my secret identity is who's the costume? The costume is the editor, or the costume is the artist? And I guess the costume is the editor. The costume is the designer. But the real me is the artist, is the creator. And that person has been like in the shadows for a long time. It was a secret identity. Now I'm coming out. And I'm coming out. And this is where, like, when you're doing what you're doing, Russell, and I mean, again, I appreciate enormously everything that I can learn from what I read from you. And I'm just not kicking your ass because it's your podcast. Kissing your ass because it's your podcast, not kicking. I'm not kicking anyone. It's just like I decided the day I consciously decided that 100% of my brain space would be dedicated to publishing and comics. It was a conscious choice. I could have been a teacher. I studied history. I could have been a history teacher. I could have been anything else. I could have stayed a graphic designer for years, forever. But I had that in me, and I had to let it out. And I think for you, it's the same. Like, at one point when you have those stories, you have to let them out because they're there. They're not going to go away. You're gonna close your eyes. You're going to wake up in the morning. The stories are still there. And I don't know about your process, but this is something that I've been trying to share with other people. And like, I'll often get like the question, like, how do you get your stories? How do you get your ideas? And my method is like really personal. I don't write everything. I don't write all my ideas. And I certainly don't write scripts until the story sticks with me for a long time. So I will have an idea, and if the idea, I'm not writing it down. If the idea is still there in the next morning, and the morning after, and the morning after, and the morning after, and it morphs into a story in my head, and the story is complete. When the story is complete, I start writing. And I know that not everybody's doing that. And I'm taking the risk to forget. I'm taking the risk of having great stories that will never be made because I wake up the next morning and I forgot. But
so funny. That's exactly how I write things too.
Really?
Yeah, because that's what I tell people all the time. Like, hey, if it can't stick with you, it's not worth writing.
Exactly.
So I'd like to move to your secret identity for a minute, because
Yes.
I know there's a lot of people listening who want to work for other brands or want to get published by people. And I've always wondered, how do you know when somebody has it? Like that they can do the work, that you can like hire them confidently.
You mean during my work as an editor?
Yes, as an editor.
So Humanoids gets a lot of pitches, like a ridiculously high amount of pitches, because we have an open submission policy. Like, people who go to the website, they will have a submission page. There's a pitch template. They can fill out the pitch template and send it to a dedicated email address, and that email address happens to go directly to my inbox. So I read everything. I'm the first. I'm the first in front of the gate. So you need to convince me first before it gets to other people. And I'm tough.
You are so tough. You are one of the toughest editors I've ever met, as far as like level of quality necessary too.
Oh, I think that is a compliment. But even if you're tough, sometimes you fail. Like, you have to have the humility to say, like, because you have a feeling, because you have a strong feeling about something or someone, maybe you fail, because like pitching is 10% of the job. The bulk, the meat and potatoes is the execution. And you cannot judge execution based on the pitch, especially for newcomers who are unproven. So this is like a thin line. So what resonates with me is emotions. And I think that maybe it's because I'm older or more mature or seasoned or whatever you want to call it, but I don't like empty comics. I don't like that at all. I want comics that spark emotions with me. Because if there's not an emotional connection between a comic book and a reader, then you fail. You fail as a creator. You fail as an editor. You fail. And I'm going to quote Mark Waid, because I'm very fortunate to have Mark Waid working with us. And Mark is as much, I always say that, Mark is as much a student as he's a teacher. And that's wonderful to get it. Like every word that comes out of his mouth is gold. And Mark's first question when he reads a pitch is like, why does it have to be a comic? Sometimes you have people, they repurpose something for the screen to be a comic because, hey, you know what? Comics are hot. So maybe it's I'm using the back door and then I can go back to the front door again. No. Maybe it's a book. It's a book idea. It's repurposed. It's like Frankenstein into a comic book. No. Why does it have to be a comic? A comic book has to be born a comic book. It's not like restrictive, but it has to work visually as much as it works with words. And what's unique about comics and graphic novel is that we're the best of both worlds. We are a visual medium and we are a prose medium. We're both at the same time, and we're unlimited in budget. We're unlimited in ideas. I'm extremely disappointed in a lot of people submitting pitches because I feel that it didn't understand that. They don't understand the scope and the unlimited power of our medium. And that's what I want to see. Because I'm the first reader of their pitches, I want something that will blow my mind. And if it's like, I got this morning, before I talked to you, I got 3 pitches that came during the night. 2 pitches. One of them is another fantasy, like Final Fantasy / manga-esque pitch. There's nothing about the characters that is really compelling. There's nothing about the story that is unique and exceptional. Why would I buy this? Why would I take it to the next level and have it greenlit? Not interesting. I got another pitch. This other pitch was like, it was a nice concept, but the execution was poor. Like, oh, good idea, but the way the story is told in the pitch is not interesting. So how do you waste an idea? And the third one was a concept that was fairly good, but the artist attached to it was so bad and the problem is that they were both co-creators. So unfortunately, and that's why I always say to people, if you are going to pitch and you're a writer, don't pitch with an artist. Because if you're pitching with an artist and the artist will not be to the professional level that we expect him to be or her to be, it's not going to work. We're going to have to reject both of you, even if the story is good, because you're married to that person professionally, and it's not going to work. So lesson number 1, if you're a writer, pitch without an artist. If you're an artist, allow yourself to pitch yourself based on your own qualities, not because you're attached to a pitch. Both have a chance separately, and it's better. And if the artist is great, we can put him on another project. If the writer is great, we can put on his project, we can greenlight his project, or just offer him something else. I got a pitch yesterday from 2 queer creators, okay? And it was a queer story, and I'm fine with that. I'm pretty open to everything. But the problem is that there are a lot of good ideas, but the story structure doesn't work. The writer, who's also an artist, doesn't understand who their audience is. So if you're going to write a thing that is targeted to children or young adult, and it's a very highly sexual story, it's going to be a problem because you're talking to yourself. You're not talking to a younger audience. You have to be very careful. So it's there are so many parameters that we have to take into consideration when we get pitches. And sometimes creators will not take it the right way. They will think that that's because we consider that they're not good enough. Look, rejection and writing to you to tell you you're rejected is a mark of respect. I could just ignore you. I'm not. I'm writing you back. And if it's not me, it's Amanda, our assistant editor, who handles a lot of the rejection letters because there are so many. And one of me or Rob Levin, my co-senior editor, who's working with me at Humanoids, and he's a terrific editor himself. We don't have enough time just to answer to everybody, because we have this open submission policy. And people grow impatient. Like, oh, I've sent you a pitch like 4 weeks ago. You haven't had the time? No, because we also have the rest of our work to do. We have books to publish. We have creators to support. We have creators to follow. And when you're doing that job, it takes a lot of time. So it's not 100% of our time dedicated to reading submissions. So, but again, you have to use diplomacy and explain that to people, because often they don't realize, they only see their side of the story.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good summation of editor of at least submission editorial.
Yeah.
I mean, just to give people an idea, how many roughly submissions do you get versus how many books do you publish a year versus how many books are in-house books that you know you're going to make outside of because there are books that that you developed in-house that you're looking for a team on, and then there are books that actually come in through that submission process, both from professional creators who you've worked with before and non-professional creators or people that you haven't worked with before. So could you give just some quick numbers?
Well, it's really tricky, and especially right now we're in the process of reevaluating everything. But let me say this. One, the good news is that we don't have a quota. So if we published, 20 books this year, and then there's a fantastic project that comes, we're not going to reject it. We're going to find a way to publish this project. So we're not bound by any limitations in terms of how many projects. Of course, we have budget issues like every company, and we cannot publish everyone. That would be foolish. And we pride ourselves in being very responsible in the way we put out books on the market. And the third thing is that because of our international nature, we're curating books a little bit more. Like, if it works in America, that's fine, but it also has to work internationally. That's also why we have an additional layer of expectations from pitches. Because, again, we're going to see pitches I rejected a lot of pitches on American football, on 4th of July, on Thanksgiving, on very American traditions that don't export really well. Because an international company like Humanoids cannot afford to have those stories, because it would appeal to a certain category of population, a certain target group in the US, but wouldn't export well. We can't afford that. Our economy is based on international. So, and the American market, and I say that all the time, and it's not disrespectful because this is the market that I work in, the market that I love, and that I keep working on for as long as I can. The American market, the publishing market, is smaller. It's smaller than the European markets. That's most other markets. Smaller than the Japanese market, smaller than the French market. So at the same time, we have to be very humble about what we put out, because it could very well, and especially in a crowded environment, since everybody is publishing more books, instead of going to war with other publishers and say, we're going to do more, we're going to do more, we're going to do more. No, we want to do better, not necessarily more. Does it make sense?
Yes, absolutely. So let's, as we wind down, because we're reaching the end of our hour together,
yes,
I want to talk about your book.
Which
your
one?
Book that's on, the one that's on Kickstarter now.
The one that's on Kickstarter. Okay.
Well, I mean, you could talk about any book, but I assume you wanted to talk about the book that you're relaunching right now.
Yes. So the book that I'm relaunching right now is called One Hit Wonder. One Hit Wonder has had an incredible story, and it's an incredible story itself. It's the story of a child actor who grows up angry and becomes a hitman for the mafia. That one-line pitch itself should sell you the book, because it's oh, that's fun. And I get a lot of, oh, that's fun from people when I pitch the book. Now, what will make you go the extra mile and buy it and fund it and help us making it a reality? First, and it circles back to what I was telling you in the beginning of our conversation, which is I learned from my failure. And why I chose to restart One Hit Wonder is because this book was a heartbreaking experience making it. And I want to redeem myself, and give it a second chance because of the failure it had gone through. I have an incredibly awesome artist who has been working with me on this called Ariel Olivetti. And Ariel had to leave the book after 2 issues because he had personal problems he needed to deal with. And doing a creator-owned books, a lot of people don't know that, but like making a creator-owned book happen takes a lot of time, energy, and resources. And when you need to provide for your family, you can't afford to stay on a book without being paid for 6 months before you get any money from the publisher, which was our case. So I understood perfectly that Ariel couldn't stay on the book. And then I had to replace him, and I replaced him with another artist, and it was like a whole adventure itself because the book started being late and blah, blah, blah. And so I had the impression that this book never had a chance. And that's why I've tried to bring back last year the book to the world, but I probably not did it the right way. And where I'm doing it the right way now is that this book is a perfect illustration of everything we've been talking about, which is having independent creators rise in a time where brand culture represents the majority of what people are talking about in comics. You will see a lot of blogs. You will see a lot of YouTube channels about Marvel and DC movies. How many about independent creators? How many about us? How many about the other ones? We are the other ones. We are the other creators. And our stories are not stupid. Our stories are not bad. We're just different. We don't do superheroes? Fine. We do other things. But comics are not a just one and only block where all the stories have to be the same. People complain all the time about that. Well, I'm bringing One Hit Wonder here, and I'm throwing it back in the mix because One Hit Wonder, I believe, needs to be read and deserves an audience. So I'm offering it again. But this is where it's different. It's different because Ariel and I have talked about it after the failure, and he agreed to draw a brand new cover for the book. And we threw a lot of new rewards in there. What happened in the meantime is I also had my first ever sketchbook released. And then I have another product that I can put out and give as a reward now. It's like, okay, you haven't seen me coming as an artist, but I'm not just a writer. I'm a comic book creator at large. I can do everything now. Here it is. So I'm offering it also as a reward. So I've grown. This project has grown, and it's the first step, and it's the foundation I want to build the new me on. I want to build it from something that failed and that I learned from. And I think, again, this is why it circles back to me, is that as creators, we need to learn. I'm not in denial. I look at the reality of our markets. I know how difficult it is, but this is what I know how to do, and I think I do it okay.
I think you do it quite well. All right, so as we wrap up, I have a question for you, and
Sure.
then you can then give everyone where to find your work and your stuff. And so the question that I have for you, and this is when all of the people who've been kind of zoning out in traffic or like working at their drafting table, just pay attention for like the next 5 minutes, and you're going to deliver what you want people to get out of this podcast, like what you want them to leave this podcast knowing. Piece of advice. It could be something you said already, could be something brand new, and then also give your where we can find you online and support you.
Okay, so 3 things. 1, I'm a creator of passion. A creature of passion, and I never give up. And I mean, I relocated in America from my home country, France, at a tender age of 44-year-old for a reason, because I thought that I had something more to deliver to this industry. I'm kind of a unicorn. Like, there are no other like me, and I know it. And it's not a good thing. I wish there were more. Now, this is the reality. I'm the only French writer and artist, both of those, living in the United States and working solely for the American market, period. Now, what people need to do is like discover more of my work, and I want to open more doors for other artists. So that's also part of my job as an editor at Humanoids, but that's also what I do. So I'm going to provide services, and like everyone who wants to get in touch with me, it's very easy to get consulting, to get portfolio reviews, to get tips. Some will be free, some will come with a price tag. I'm not lying about that. And all the information will be on my website, www.fairsquarecomics.com. I'm also under my real name, Fabrice Sapolsky, all attached on every social network you might think of. And you can, of course, text me. And that's the thing. Text me at +1 323 405 9401. And you'll get a real text from me. You'll get a real answer. And we can interact. And you get part of my community. And that's what I want. I want this community to grow bigger, to be inclusive, and to be and to deliver something creative and satisfying for everybody.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you for having me.
So that was Fabrice Sapolsky. If you enjoyed that one, head on over to social media and let him know how much you enjoyed it, and check out his work. He does amazing work, and he has a Kickstarter that is live right now. I pledged to it, and you should too. If you like this show, make sure to rate, subscribe, and review, and tell 3 friends about us. It's the best way for us to keep growing and being able to put out this great content week after week. All right, wannabes and creators, that's it for me. Have a great day.